One Piece Chapter 1190 has just dropped a massive bombshell, and this time, the battle is between two characters from completely different eras. On one side, we have Skipper Gaban, the legendary warrior of the Roger Pirates, and on the other side, we have IMU, the mysterious ruler standing at the top of the world government. But this isn't simply another fight in Elbaf. This battle could reveal just how terrifying IMU really is, and it could also tell us something important about what Luffy still needs to become before the final war. Major One Piece spoilers are coming, so if you don't want to know what happens in chapter 1190, this is your warning. The chapter is reportedly titled The Person Whose Death Would Make People Happy, and the ending is absolutely shocking. Chapter 1190 continues the chaos surrounding Luffy and IMU. Luffy is already in an extremely dangerous situation, and Gaban realizes that simply protecting Luffy isn't enough. Gaban then gives Luffy a brutal reality check. He tells Luffy that becoming Pirate King isn't something he can achieve while expecting other people to save him whenever things become difficult. Gaban's message is basically this: if Luffy wants the throne, he needs to be ready for the enemies waiting for him. Then Gaban makes a huge decision. Instead of allowing Luffy to remain in danger, Gaban throws Luffy away from the battlefield. And then the legendary former Roger Pirate turns toward IMU. This is the moment everyone has been waiting for. Gaban versus IMU begins. Think about what this means. Gaban isn't just some random old pirate. He was one of the most important fighters of Gall D. Roger's crew. For years, fans have wondered how powerful Gaban really was during Roger's era, and now Oda has placed him directly in front of IMU. That alone tells us something. Gaban knows exactly what kind of monster he's facing. He has already lived through the era of Roger, Rayleigh, Whitebeard, Odin, and other legendary pirates. And according to the latest spoiler reports, Gaban even remembers the people from his old crew, and the rivals who shaped that generation. So when Gaban looks at Luffy, he's not simply looking at another young pirate. He's looking at the person that his generation may have been waiting for. But before Luffy can continue, Gaban has to survive IMU. Now let's talk about IMU. The latest spoilers reveal one extremely interesting detail. IMU draws a Japanese sword called Honebami. The name is translated as Bone Eater. And this is important because IMU isn't simply standing back and using mysterious powers from a distance. IMU is willing to fight directly with a blade against someone as experienced as Gaban. But we need to be careful here. The current spoiler information does not reveal the complete origin, grade, or full abilities of Honebami. So don't treat every theory online as confirmed information. What we do know is that IMU uses the sword during the confrontation with Gaban, and considering Imu's position, history, and terrifying abilities already shown in the final saga, the fact that IMU can combine those powers with swordsmanship makes the situation even more dangerous. This could be another major piece of Imu's arsenal. But Honebami isn't the only reason IMU is terrifying. Before this fight, IMU has already demonstrated abilities that go far beyond what a normal human should be capable of. IMU has displayed overwhelming haki and supernatural powers, connected to the strange abilities of the world government's highest authorities. We have also seen IMU manipulate or influence other characters through terrifying powers. And the final saga has repeatedly suggested that Imu's abilities are connected to something much older than the current world government. However, Chapter 1190's current spoiler reports do not reveal a completely new devil fruit name or a definitive explanation of Imu's entire power system. So here's the important distinction. The sword Honebami is reported information. Gaban fighting IMU is reported information. But exactly how all of Imu's powers work is still something we need to wait for the actual chapter to understand. And that uncertainty makes IMU even more frightening. Gaban doesn't simply stand there and allow IMU to dominate the fight. The former Roger Pirate fights back. And this is where the chapter becomes extremely interesting for power scaling. Gaban uses a technique called Shinman, Hassan, Fukush. The attack is powerful enough to destroy the ground beneath them. Instead of keeping the fight on the normal battlefield, the confrontation sends them falling toward the underworld. Think about that for a moment. A legendary fighter from Roger's crew is going all out against the hidden ruler of the world. And Gaban is using techniques that show he still has serious combat ability despite his age. This doesn't necessarily mean Gaban is stronger than IMU, but it does prove that Gaban is not someone IMU can simply ignore. The fight becomes a clash between the old era and the ruler of the current world. There is another reason this battle is so important. Gaban represents the old generation. He sailed with Roger. He witnessed the journey that eventually changed the world. IMU represents the opposite side of history. IMU has remained hidden while the world government controlled the world for centuries. So this isn't only a physical battle. Symbolically, It's Roger's era crashing directly into the secret ruler behind the world government, and that's why Gaban's decision to fight IMU could be more important than it first appears. Gaban knows that Luffy still has a long way to go. He understands that becoming Pirate King means facing enemies that are completely different from the ones Luffy has fought before. That's why Gaban sends Luffy away. He isn't giving up on Luffy. He's forcing Luffy to understand that the final battle cannot always be won by someone else protecting him. And now we reach the biggest spoiler of chapter 1190. After the battle between Gaban and IMU, the chapter ends with Gaban badly injured. The latest reports state that Gaban has lost his left arm below the elbow. Luffy sees Gaban in this condition and is left completely shocked. And this changes the feeling of the entire battle. Gaban stepped forward because he wanted Luffy to continue moving. He knew that someone had to stand between Luffy and IMU, but even a legendary fighter from Roger's crew could not simply defeat IMU. Gaban's loss is therefore a massive warning. If someone as experienced and powerful as Gaban can be pushed this far by IMU, then Luffy's next challenge is on another level entirely. And remember, Gaban had just told Luffy that he wasn't ready. Now Luffy has witnessed the price of that lesson. So what happens next? This is where things become extremely interesting. Luffy has already reached Gear 5. He has awakened his Devil Fruit and carries the power of Nika, but chapter 1190 may be showing us that raw power alone isn't enough. Luffy needs experience. He needs to understand the enemy, and most importantly, he needs to become strong enough that people like Gaban don't have to sacrifice themselves just to keep him alive. The chapter's message may be simple. Luffy is close to the level required for the final war, but he isn't finished yet. And if IMU is truly the final enemy standing above the world government, Luffy will eventually need to face that power himself. But there's another possibility. What if Luffy doesn't have to face the next stage of this crisis alone? Now let's enter theory territory. This is not confirmed, but imagine what could happen if another legendary figure arrives in Elbaf. The first possibility is Shanks. Shanks has a deep connection to Elbaf, and the latest cover also shows young Shanks with young Luffy. Could Oda be reminding us of their connection for a reason? If Shanks arrives, he could potentially help protect Luffy's crew while Gaban is down. But there is another possibility that could be even bigger. Monkey D. Dragon. Dragon has been waiting in the shadows for years, and his entire organization exists to oppose the world government. If IMU is truly the hidden ruler of that system, then Dragon has perhaps the biggest reason to enter this war. Imagine Luffy fighting for freedom while Dragon attacks the world government from another side. Father and son finally standing against the same enemy. That would be insane. But again, these are theories, not confirmed events. And there is one more possibility. Maybe Shanks and Dragon don't come to save Luffy at all. Maybe this is exactly what Gaban wants. Maybe Gaban's sacrifice is meant to force Luffy to finally stop depending on the legends of the previous generation. Roger's generation has already done its part. Now it's Luffy's generation. Gaban may have just bought Luffy enough time to recover, understand IMU's power, and return stronger. And if that happens, the next confrontation could be completely different, because Luffy has already seen what IMU can do. He has seen what happened to Gaban, and now he has a reason to become even stronger. Chapter 1190 may therefore be the beginning of Luffy's next major evolution. Not necessarily a new gear, but a new level of determination. And if Shanks or Dragon eventually arrives, it could turn the entire Elbaf battlefield upside down. So that's everything we know from the latest chapter 1190 spoiler reports. Gaban sends Luffy away. IMU draws Honebami and clashes with the legendary Roger Pirate. Gaban unleashes Shinman, Hassan, Fukush, sending the battlefield toward the underworld. And by the end, Gaban is left defeated and loses his left arm, while Luffy is left in shock. But the biggest question remains. Who will protect Luffy's crew next? Could Shanks finally arrive in Elbaf? Could Dragon enter the war against IMU? Or will Luffy return and prove that Gaban's lesson has finally reached him? Now I want to hear your theory. Who do you think will save the Straw Hat crew? And what do you think IMU's true power really is? Comment your theory below. If you enjoyed this video, like, share it with another One Piece fan, and subscribe to Asura YT for more One Piece spoilers, theories, and anime content. Thanks for watching.